I didn't say a word. When the HOA president pounded her fist on the conference table, her face turning the color of boiled beets, as she accused me of illegally trespassing across private property, I just slid the brittle, yellowed easement deed across the table, the one my grandfather had signed and notarized in 1963, back when the entire subdivision was still cow pasture. Their attorney picked it up with an air of casual dismissal, scanned the first few lines, and then, just like I knew would happen, his hand froze mid-turn. His lips moved silently as he reread the section about permanent and irrevocable ingress and egress rights. Elianed back, paled, and put it down with a care that looked almost reverent, as if the paper might burn him. I sat there, quietly, almost enjoying the sound of the president's voice trailing off into the silence she didn't understand yet. In that moment, I didn't need to yell, didn't need to threaten. The deed was older than her entire HOA, and it had just made her empire vanish. It's funny to think how far this all came from such a simple life. I wasn't looking for a fight when I moved back to the old property. My grandfather's land wasn't fancy, but it was ours. A stretch of woods, a gravel lane leading up to the cabin, and a little clearing where he used to keep chickens. I'd been gone for years, busy with my own life, but when I finally came back, I wanted nothing more than peace. The kind of peace you can only get from walking down the same trails you did as a kid, fixing up a cabin that still smelled faintly of pine pitch and wood smoke, and driving a rickety truck up a road that had been in the family since Eisenhower was president. My plan was simple: clean the place up, make it livable, maybe pass it on someday. I wasn't trying to control anyone. I wasn't trying to start drama. I just wanted to live quietly on the land I'd inherited, in the home my grandfather built with his own hands. The first sign of trouble came in the form of a letter, not even a personal one, just a bright orange violation notice taped to my gate. Each side, primero A, is in violation of community standards for using what they called unauthorized access through common landscaping. I remember standing there with the paper in my hand, blinking like maybe I'd misread it. Unauthorized access. They were talking about my driveway. The same gravel drive that had been cut before the HOA even existed. The same path marked in the deed records I already had framed in my cabin. At first, I laughed. It was so absurd it felt like a bad joke. But then came the threats of daily fines, the suggestion that I needed to apply for permission to use what they now called association land, the implication that if I didn't comply, they could block me out entirely. I tried to be civil about it. I really did. I sent emails to the board, explaining that the gravel lane wasn't new. I attached a scan of the property plat and offered to meet in person to sort things out. I even asked if there was some misunderstanding with their landscapers, who'd recently planted a line of decorative bushes right across my access point. But my messages were ignored, or worse, replied to with curt, dismissive lines about association policy. One board member even told me, with a smirk at a community meeting, that maybe I should just use the main road. Like everyone else, the mine road, of course, was a mile out of my way and required crossing another onerous land that I had no right to. That's when the letters escalated: fines, stacking, threats of towing, vague warnings about legal remedies. It became clear this wasn't confusion. They wanted to push me out. That's when I stopped trying to reason with them. I stopped sending emails that were never answered, stopped showing up to meetings where they rolled their eyes at me, and started spending my evenings in the county records office. Property law isn't thrilling reading, but it's steady and unforgiving, like stone. And in those pages, I found my leverage. The original easement deed from 1963, granted when my grandfather sold a portion of the farmland to the developer who would eventually build the subdivision. It gave him and his heirs permanent access across what later became common property. Not conditional, not revocable. Permanent. I made copies, had them notarized, and tucked the original back in its protective sleeve. Then I went further. I documented everything. Photos of the bushes they planted across, my road scans of their letters threatening fines, even videos of me being told by their so-called security patrol that I wasn't allowed to drive to my own house. My nights were long. My family worried I was burying myself in paperwork, but there was a quiet satisfaction in it. Every late night was another nail in their coffin. By the time the board called me in for a formal hearing, I was ready. They expected me to beg or bargain. Instead, I sat calmly at the table while they rattled off accusations: trespassing, property damage, failure to comply with landscaping rules. I let them finish, let them puff themselves up, and then I slid that easement deed across the table. Watching the color drain from their lawyer's face was almost theatrical. The president tried to bluster, insisting the deed couldn't possibly be valid. That association law supersedes private agreements. Their own attorney cut her off. That document was ironclad, recorded with the county, legally binding. Suddenly, the board that had been so smugged a moment earlier went silent. I could feel the shift in the room like a change in weather. The aftermath was slow, but it was complete. The bushes blocking my road were ripped out within the week. De finis stadi levied against me were not only cancelled but officially withdrawn and I made sure to have notarized. Just for the record, 2 board members resigned before the month was out, citing stress. The president clung to her role for another year before a lawsuit from another neighbor, emboldened by my fit, finally pushed her out. The HOA still exists on paper, but its teeth are gone. They don't send me letters anymore. They don't block my road. When I drive past their manicured lawns in my dented old truck, some wave, some look away, but no one says a word. And me? I've got my peace back. The gravel lane is open, just like it always was. The cabin smells like pine pitch again. The trails are still quiet, and the land feels like it belongs to me the way it should. I didn't want to fight, but I wasn't about to give up what my grandfather left me. In the end, the deed spoke louder than I ever could. Now, when I see those neighbors who once tried to push me out, I don't bother with small talk. I just nod, drive through, and think to myself, funny how landscaping can't block an easement carved in stone.